Most people won't admit this, but the need to be liked is quietly ruining their lives. Not in obvious ways, in subtle ones, in the way you hesitate before speaking, in the way you soften your truth, in the way you smile at people you don't even respect. And here's the uncomfortable question. What has trying to be liked actually gotten you? Respect, power, freedom, or just acceptance at the cost of yourself? Because the truth is, the moment you need approval, you lose control. And the moment you stop needing it, everything changes. You become harder to manipulate, harder to read, harder to replace. You become dangerous. People don't respect those they can easily like. They respect those they can't quite figure out. Let me show you something. Think about your life right now. How many times have you explained yourself when you didn't need to? How many times have you tolerated subtle disrespect just to keep things smooth? How many times have you given your energy to people who already decided how they see you? Every single time. You gave away leverage, and you didn't even realize it. That's the trap. Being liked feels safe, but it makes you predictable. And predictable people get played. In this video, I'm going to show you 8 principles drawn from Machiavelli's thinking and real-world dynamics that will completely shift how you move. Not surface-level advice. Not be confident cliches. I'm talking about real behavioral shifts that will make people pause when you walk into a room. You'll learn why silence unsettles people more than words. Why slowing down gives you control. Why hiding your reactions protects your power. Why not being fully understood is your greatest advantage. And by the end of this, something subtle but irreversible will happen. You'll start seeing interactions differently. You'll notice patterns you used to miss. You'll stop reacting and start choosing. People won't know what changed about you, but they will feel it. Because what you're about to learn doesn't just change how others see you. It changes who you are when no one's watching. Let's begin. Number 1. Most men don't realize they're leaking power in the smallest, most invisible moments. Not when they fail, not when they fall apart, but when they open their mouth just a little too much, just to be understood. That reflex, that urge to explain yourself, to clarify, to make sure people get you, that's not harmless. That's where your authority dies quietly, without noise, without resistance. And the worst part is, you've been trained to do it. Since you were a kid, every time someone misunderstood you, you were told to explain better, to communicate more, to be clear. Nobody told you that the more you explain, the more you expose where you can be controlled. Watch this closely. A man questions your decision, maybe with a subtle tone, maybe with a smirk, maybe disguised as curiosity. And instantly, you feel it, that internal pressure, that need to respond, to justify, to prove you're not wrong. So you start talking. You add context, you soften your stance, you try to sound reasonable. But what you're really doing is handing over your frame. You're saying, without realizing it, your opinion has weight over me. And from that moment on, the dynamic shifts. You're no longer the one in control. You're reacting. I've seen this play out in rooms where nothing was said, but everything was decided. One guy gets questioned. He leans forward, starts explaining, his tone slightly defensive, his words stacking on top of each other. Another guy gets questioned. He just looks, pauses, lets the silence stretch just enough to make the other person uncomfortable, then moves on like nothing happened. Same situation, different outcomes. One loses status without noticing. The other gains it without trying. Here's the part that will bother you. Silence feels like weakness at first. It feels like you're losing, like you're letting something slide. That's your conditioning screaming. Because you were taught that if you don't defend yourself, you're being passive. But in reality, controlled silence is pressure. It forces the other person to sit with their own words, to second guess, to wonder if they miscalculated. And people hate that uncertainty. They'll start talking more, revealing more, sometimes even backtracking, all while you stay still. Think about the last time you over-explained something. Maybe it was to a woman who pulled back slightly and asked, "Why did you do that?" Maybe it was at work, when someone challenged your decision in front of others, you didn't just answer, you went deeper, added layers, tried to make it airtight. And in that moment, you felt it slipping, that subtle loss of ground, that invisible shift where you were no longer the one being observed, but the one being evaluated. That's the cost. Now flip it. Imagine saying less. Imagine letting your decisions exist without decoration. I had my reasons. And then silence. No tension in your face, no rush to fill the gap, just stillness. That's where power starts to rebuild. Because people can't grip what you don't give them. They can't manipulate what they don't understand. And they can't control a man who doesn't feel the need to be approved. This is where most men break, not because they're incapable, but because they can't handle the discomfort of being misunderstood. They'd rather be liked than respected, rather be clear than be untouchable. But you don't get both. The man who is always understood is predictable. And the predictable man is easy to move, easy to pressure, easy to own. So the next time that reflex rises, and it will catch it mid-sentence, cut it off. Let the words die before they leave your mouth. Sit in that silence, feel how unnatural it is, and stay there anyway. Because on the other side of that discomfort, there's a version of you that doesn't need to be explained, only observed. Number 2, slow down in a world addicted to speed, and watch how the power shifts without you saying a word. Most men never realize this because they've been trained, almost conditioned, to react instantly to messages, to pressure, to expectations. They think responsiveness is respect. It's not. It's submission disguised as politeness. The moment you reply too fast, you reveal something, not just availability, but eagerness. And eagerness is a currency people exploit without even thinking. Think about it. A message pops up. You see it. Your mind starts racing. I should answer now. I don't want to seem rude. What if they think I'm ignoring them? That internal tension, that subtle anxiety, that's not communication, that's control. And you're handing it over voluntarily. Meanwhile, the other person? Calm, detached, waiting. They set the tempo, and you follow like it's automatic. Most men never question this dynamic. They just live inside it. Now flip it. You see the message, and you don't move. Not out of pettiness, not to play games, but because you refuse to be rushed. Minutes pass, maybe longer, and something interesting happens, not in your world, but in theirs. Silence starts speaking for you. Questions start forming in their head. Did he see it? Is he busy? Is he ignoring me? You've said nothing, yet you've created tension. That's power. Not loud, not aggressive, quiet, controlled, almost invisible. I remember a guy I knew, always available, always quick to respond. Girlfriend texts, he answers in seconds. Boss emails, instant reply. Friends call, he picks up every time. He thought he was reliable, but everyone treated him like he had no boundaries, no mystery, no weight. Then one day, he stopped rushing. Not dramatically, just subtly. He took his time. And suddenly, people leaned in. They waited for him. Same man, different pace, completely different perception. Here's the part most people won't say out loud. The one who appears to care less often controls the interaction. Not because they're cruel, but because they're not reacting from need. And need is loud, even when you try to hide it. You can hear it in fast replies, in over-explanations, in the urge to fill silence. When you slow down, you're not just delaying a response, you're removing that signal of need. This plays out everywhere. In a room full of people, the one who speaks last often carries the most weight because everyone else already revealed themselves trying to fill the silence. In an argument, when someone is escalating, getting louder, faster, and you lower your tone, stretch your pauses, look unbothered, it unsettles them more than any comeback ever could. You're no longer reacting to them, they're reacting to your restraint. And yes, there's that voice in your head saying, but what if they think I'm rude? Let them. That fear is exactly what's been keeping you predictable. You've been optimizing your behavior to be liked, to be accepted, to avoid discomfort, and in doing that, you've made yourself easy to read, easy to manage, easy to control. Respect doesn't grow in that environment. There's another layer to this: strategy. When you respond instantly, you're usually responding emotionally. Heat of the moment, half-formed thoughts, things you later wish you could pull back. Slowing down gives you distance. You start seeing what's actually being said, and more importantly, what's being implied. The subtle pressure, the hidden expectation, the small manipulations wrapped in normal conversation. Most traps don't look like traps when you're moving too fast to notice them. So try this. The next time you feel that impulse to answer immediately, don't. Sit with it. Feel the discomfort. Let the silence stretch just enough to break your old pattern. And pay attention to what happens, not just externally, but inside you. Because the real shift isn't just in how others see you, it's in realizing you're no longer operating on someone else's clock. Number 3, learn to suffer in silence, and not in a weak, suppressed way, but in a controlled, almost surgical way where nothing leaks unless you decide it does. Because the moment you reveal what hurts you, you're not being honest, you're being exposed. And exposure, in most environments, is not rewarded, it's studied. People don't always need to hate you to use you. They just need to notice where you react. Think back for a second, not theoretically, but specifically. That moment someone said something that hit deeper than it should have. Maybe it was a joke about your past, your money, your woman, your status, and you felt it instantly. That small shift in your face, that pause before you answered, that need to explain yourself. You thought it was nothing. It wasn't. Everyone watching saw it. And even worse, the person who said it saw exactly where to aim next time. Here's the uncomfortable truth most men avoid. Your emotional reactions train people how to treat you. Not your words, not your intentions, your reactions. You don't need to announce your weakness. Your body does it for you if you don't control it. A slight tension in your jaw, a change in tone, a defensive explanation. That's all it takes. From that moment on, you're no longer a man, you're a pattern waiting to be triggered. I once watched this play out in real time. 2 men in the same room. One gets teased about his financial situation. He laughs, shrugs it off, changes the subject. The other gets a similar comment, and immediately starts explaining, justifying, defending. Same room, same energy, different reactions, completely different outcomes. One became untouchable. The other became entertainment. And nobody announced it. It just happened. This is where most people misunderstand control. They think being strong means not feeling anything. That's nonsense. You feel everything. The hit, the disrespect, the sting, the betrayal. Sometimes it burns. Sometimes it sits in your chest longer than you'd like to admit. But strength is not in the absence of emotion. It's in the discipline of expression. You don't perform your pain for an audience that hasn't earned access to it. Because once they see it, they don't forget it. Ever notice how certain people always know exactly what to say to get a reaction out of someone? That's not intuition. That's data collection. They've seen you react before, they've mapped your pressure points, and now they just press the same button whenever they want control, attention, or dominance in that moment. And here's where it gets darker. Sometimes they don't even realize they're doing it. It's not always malicious, it's instinct. Humans test boundaries. They push, observe, adjust. If you react strongly, they learn. If you stay composed, they hesitate. That hesitation, that uncertainty, that's where your power lives. So when something hits you, and it will, your first battle is internal. You'll feel the urge to react, to defend, to correct the narrative immediately. That urge is the trap, because once you act on it, you've already lost the frame. Instead, you pause. Your face stays neutral. Your voice stays calm. Your body doesn't betray you, and the other person is left standing there, unsure if they even reached you. That uncertainty eats at people more than any emotional outburst ever could, because now they can't read you. They don't know if you're unaffected or just controlled, and that ambiguity, that lack of access, forces them into your pace, your terms. This isn't about becoming cold for the sake of ego. It's about understanding that your pain is private territory. Not everyone deserves a map. Not everyone deserves access. You process it later, alone, or with people who've proven they won't weaponize it. But in the moment, nothing. No flinch, no crack, no signal. Because the man who cannot be read cannot be controlled. And the moment people realize they can't get a reaction out of you, they either respect you or they remove themselves. Either way, you win. Number 4. Understand this quietly, almost like a rule nobody wrote down but everyone obeys. Your warmth has value, and the moment you give it away indiscriminately, it stops being warmth and becomes permission. Most men don't see this happening in real time. They just feel the consequences later. The subtle disrespect, the casual tone people use with them, The way boundaries get tested again and again, as if they're optional. And the worst part, they think the solution is to be even nicer, even more understanding, as if more warmth will fix what lack of respect created. It doesn't. It never does. You've been there before, whether you admit it or not. Someone crosses a line, says something slightly off, maybe in front of others, and instead of tightening the atmosphere, you soften it. You smile, you laugh it off, you downplay it, because you don't want tension. But what you actually did in that moment was teach them something. You taught them that they can touch that line and nothing happens. No consequence, no shift, no loss of access. So next time, they go a little further, not because they hate you, but because you showed them there's no cost. There's a man I remember clearly, always the good guy in every room. Friendly, warm, easy to approach, always trying to keep things smooth. People joked about him, lightly at first, then sharper, more direct, and he kept smiling, always smiling. One day someone pushed too far, said something personal, and he laughed again. The room laughed too, but not with him, at him. And in that exact moment, something invisible locked in place. He wasn't seen as kind, he was seen as safe to disrespect. He never recovered from that frame, no matter how much he tried to later. This is where you have to separate two things most men confuse: warmth and self-respect. Warmth without boundaries is not virtue, it's exposure. It's an open door with no lock. And people, consciously or not, will walk through it just to see how far they can go. Not everyone, but enough that it matters. And once they realize there's no resistance, you're no longer a person to them, you're an environment. Something they move through, not someone they adjust for. So the shift is simple, but uncomfortable. Your warmth cannot be your default setting. It has to be conditional. Not fake, not manipulative, conditional. The moment someone tests you, your energy changes. Not dramatically, not emotionally, just precise. You don't get louder, you don't get aggressive, you get colder. Shorter responses, less engagement. No unnecessary smiles. Just enough distance for them to feel it without you needing to explain it. And here's the part that most people underestimate. That shift hits harder than any confrontation. Because now they feel something changed, but they can't fully grab it. They start replaying the moment in their head. Did I say something wrong? Why is he different now? That uncertainty forces awareness. And awareness creates adjustment if they value access to you. The ones who respect you will notice immediately. They'll correct themselves, sometimes subtly, sometimes directly. Their tone shifts, their behavior tightens. Not because you demanded it, but because they felt the consequence of crossing you. The ones who don't adjust, they expose themselves, they disappear, or they double down on disrespect. Either way, they remove themselves from your circle without you needing to chase, argue, or explain. And that's the real power here. You stop negotiating your worth in real time. You stop explaining boundaries like a contract no one reads. Your behavior becomes the message. Warmth is there, but only for those who handle it correctly. Everyone else gets distance. Because at the end of the day, people don't value what's always available. They value what can be lost. And when they realize your warmth is something they can lose, that's when they start paying attention to how they show up around you. Number 5, start treating your privacy like territory, something that can be invaded if you're careless, something that once exposed can't be taken back. Most men don't lose power because they're weak. They lose it because they talk too much. They reveal too early, too easily, too completely. They think transparency builds connection, but what it actually does in most cases is remove tension. And without tension, there's no curiosity, no intrigue, no weight. You become fully known before you've even been respected. Watch yourself in conversations. Really watch how quickly you start explaining who you are, what you've been through, what you're planning next. It feels natural, almost automatic. Someone asks a simple question, and suddenly you're opening doors they didn't even knock on. Your past, your struggles, your ambitions, laid out like a presentation nobody earned access to. And then later you wonder why they don't take you seriously, why they don't value your presence, why you feel exposed. It's because you removed all the mystery before they had a reason to look for it. There was a moment I saw this clearly. Two men, same environment, same opportunity to speak. One filled every silence, told stories, explained his goals in detail, tried to be understood. The other spoke less, answered briefly, redirected attention, left things unfinished. Guess who people kept thinking about after the conversation ended? It wasn't the one who gave everything. It was the one who held something back. Not because he was hiding, but because he understood that attention follows what is not fully revealed. Here's the part that most people won't admit. The more people know about you, the easier it is to reduce you. Once they can predict you, categorize you, explain you in a sentence, your value drops. You become manageable. There's no tension left, no question, no edge. But when there are gaps, when there are things they can't quite read, can't fully access, their mind keeps circling back to you, trying to figure you out. That mental loop, that's leverage. And no, this isn't about becoming socially awkward or closed off. It's about precision. You don't need to lie. You don't need to create a fake persona. You just stop giving full access by default. Someone asks about your plans, you keep it broad. Someone digs into your past, you give the outline, not the details. Someone pushes for more, you shift the focus back to them, calmly, naturally. Most people won't even notice what you're doing. They'll just feel that there's something more to you they can't reach. Think about the people who left a mark on you. Not the loud ones, not the ones who talked the most, but the ones who felt like there was always another layer beneath the surface. Even after multiple interactions, you never fully figured them out. That wasn't accidental. That was restraint. That was control. And there's a darker layer to this that you only understand after you've been burned. Everything you share can be used. Not always immediately, not always intentionally, but information doesn't disappear. Your insecurities, your past mistakes, the things that almost broke you, in the wrong hands, or even just the wrong moment, they become leverage. A comment in an argument, a joke in a group setting, a subtle dig when you least expect it. And suddenly you realize you gave them the blueprint. So you start asking a different question before you speak. Not, can I say this? But, does this person deserve to know this? And most of the time, the honest answer is no. Not because you're paranoid, but because access should be earned, not assumed. Because mystery isn't about playing games, it's about control. It's about deciding what version of you the world gets to see and when. And the man who controls that controls the narrative around him. Number 6, start disappearing just enough to expose the truth people hide behind your constant presence. Because right now, if you're honest with yourself, you're too available, too easy to reach, too predictable, too present. And anything that is always present stops being appreciated and starts being expected. That's the part nobody tells you. You think being there proves your value, but in most cases, it erases it. Look at your own patterns. You're the one who replies first, who checks in, who keeps the conversation alive when it's dying. You're the one making sure everything stays smooth, stays connected, stays good. And for a while, it feels right, until you notice something subtle. They don't initiate. They don't invest. They don't even notice the effort anymore. Your presence became background noise, something constant, something guaranteed, and humans don't respect what feels guaranteed. There's a moment that hits hard when you see it clearly. You stop reaching out, not out of anger, not as a performance, but just silence. And at first, nothing happens. That's the uncomfortable part. No message, no check-in, no curiosity. And that silence forces a question most men avoid. Was it ever mutual? Or were you just convenient? I watched a man go through this shift without even realizing what he was about to uncover. He was always there for everyone, friends, woman, work, always the reliable one. One week, he got busy and pulled back naturally. No dramatic exit, no explanation, just less availability, and something strange happened. Some people didn't even notice he was gone. Others noticed immediately, and their behavior changed overnight. Messages became longer, more intentional. Calls came in. Suddenly, he mattered again. Same man, different presence. That's when it clicks. Your absence doesn't just create distance, it creates clarity. It reveals who was connected to you, and who was just connected to your convenience. Because when you remove constant access, people are forced to confront the gap you leave behind, and humans hate gaps. They fill them with questions, with doubt, with realization. Why isn't he here? Did something change? Did I lose access? That tension, that uncertainty, that's where your value starts to rebuild. But here's the internal conflict nobody prepares you for. Pulling back feels wrong at first. You'll feel the urge to reach out, to restore the old dynamic, to make sure everything is still okay. That urge is not loyalty, it's dependency. And if you don't control it, you'll go right back to being over-available, overexposed, overused. This isn't about disappearing to manipulate people. It's about removing yourself long enough to see reality without your constant effort distorting it. Because when you're always there, you're covering the gaps. You're compensating for their lack of investment. The moment you step back, the truth surfaces without you needing to ask a single question. And pay attention to what happens next, because this is where the real sorting begins. The ones who value you will reach out, not casually, but with intention. They'll notice the shift. They'll try to understand it. They'll adjust. The ones who don't will stay silent. No curiosity, no effort, no movement. And that silence tells you everything you were avoiding seeing. There's a brutal reality in this. Scarcity creates value. Not artificially, not as a trick, but because what is limited demands attention. When you're always available, you're common. When your presence becomes selective, you become something people have to earn, maintain, and not take lightly. So you stop treating your time like it's endless. You stop acting like your presence is something people are entitled to. You become intentional. You show up where it's reciprocated, and you withdraw where it's not. No announcements, no explanations, no drama, just absence. Because in the end, nothing reveals the truth faster than silence, and nothing rebuilds your value faster than realizing you were never supposed to be available to everyone in the first place. Number 7, cut your words down until they almost feel uncomfortable, because what you've been calling communication is often just overexposure in disguise. Most men talk too much not because they have something valuable to say, but because they're trying to control how they're perceived, explaining, justifying, clarifying, filling every silence like it's a threat. And in doing that, they drain all the weight out of their own voice. The more you explain, the less people feel. The more you talk, the less they listen. Pay attention to yourself in real moments, not theory. Someone asks you a simple question and you give a full breakdown, context, reasoning, background, as if you're on trial and need to be understood. That urge to explain everything, that's not clarity. That's insecurity dressed up as logic. You think you're being precise, but what you're actually doing is removing all tension, all curiosity, all space for interpretation. You're handing people a finished picture, and finished things don't hold attention. There's a different way to move, and it feels almost unnatural at first. You say less, and you let it land. You leave gaps. You resist the urge to fill them. And something strange happens. People lean in, not physically, but mentally. They start working to understand you. They replay what you said. They read between the lines. And now, instead of you chasing their attention, their mind is chasing you. I saw this play out in a conversation that looked ordinary on the surface. One guy was explaining everything, his plans, his intentions, long sentences, constant talking. The other guy barely spoke. When asked what he was working on, he just said, "Something that's going to change my position." Then silence. No details, no follow-up. The room shifted. Suddenly, all attention moved to him. Not because he said more, but because he left something unsaid. And that unsaid part, that's where power lives. Because the human mind hates incomplete information. It fills gaps automatically, and what people imagine is almost always more intense, more interesting, more significant than anything you could have spelled out. That's the leverage. When you imply instead of explain, you're not withholding, you're multiplying the impact of what little you say. Now bring this into your own life. Someone asks if you're upset. Instead of unpacking your emotions like a report, you pause and say, "I noticed something." Then you stop. Watch what happens. Their mind starts racing. What did you notice? How serious is it? What does it mean? You've said almost nothing, but you've created pressure. Controlled, quiet pressure. Or someone pushes you, tries to provoke a reaction. Instead of defending yourself or escalating, you look at them and say, "That tells me enough." And you leave it there, no argument, no explanation. Now they're stuck with it, trying to decode what you meant, questioning themselves instead of controlling you. This is the part most men miss. Silence is not empty. Silence is loaded. And when it follows a precise statement, it amplifies it, but only if you have the discipline not to ruin it with extra words. Look at people who carry real presence. They don't rush to explain themselves. They don't repeat their point 10 different ways. They say something once, and they let it sit. Sometimes it makes others uncomfortable. Good. That discomfort is attention. That attention is influence. Compare that to the man who keeps talking, keeps adding, keeps clarifying. You can feel the need in it, the need to be understood, to be validated, to not be misinterpreted. And that need weakens everything he says, no matter how smart it sounds. So you start cutting. Mid-sentence, mid-thought. You stop before you give everything. You let your words do just enough, and no more. Because the goal isn't to be fully understood by everyone. The goal is to be felt, to be remembered, to stay in their head long after the conversation ends. And that only happens when you leave something behind. Unsaid, unfinished, unresolved. Number 8. It doesn't start with aggression. It starts with silence. The kind that makes people lean in because they can't quite place you. Most men talk too much, explain too fast, react too predictably, and they don't realize that every reaction they give away is a piece of leverage handed to someone else. The truth is colder than most are willing to admit. You are not being respected or disrespected randomly. You are being studied, mapped, and categorized in real time. And once someone has your pattern, they own the outcome. You've seen this before. Maybe you were the one laughing too quickly at a joke that crossed the line. Maybe you were the one replying instantly, showing interest, showing availability. And suddenly the tone shifts, the energy changes, the respect drops. Not because you did something loud, but because you became readable. You became safe to predict. And what is predictable is controllable. The man who cannot be read becomes a problem no one wants to solve. Not because he is chaotic, but because he is precise in what he reveals. And more importantly, in what he withholds. There is a difference between being emotional and being expressive, between feeling deeply and showing everything. Weak men confuse transparency with honesty, but the reality is, the world does not reward emotional exposure, it exploits it. Think about the last time someone tried to test you. A subtle comment, a slight disrespect, a shift in tone. They were not attacking you directly, they were probing, looking for your edge, your trigger, your breaking point. And most men fail right there. They react, they show irritation, they defend themselves, they over-explain. In that moment, they reveal the exact coordinates of their boundaries. And once that line is visible, it can be crossed, manipulated, or danced around at will. Now imagine the opposite. The same test, the same situation, but no clear reaction, no emotional spike, no immediate response, no readable pattern, just a pause, a controlled, almost uncomfortable silence, a slight shift in eye contact, a minimal reply, or sometimes no reply at all. That's where the power shifts, because now, instead of you being analyzed, they are. They start questioning themselves, replaying what they said, adjusting their behavior without you asking. Uncertainty does what aggression never could. It creates discipline in others. This is not about being fake, it's about being selective. One day you engage, another day you withdraw, not out of mood, but out of control. One conversation you reveal something personal, the next you give nothing back. You are not inconsistent, you are unpatterned. And that difference is what separates a man who gets played from a man who sets the frame. There's a quiet advantage in being underestimated. When people can't read you, they fill the gaps with assumptions, and most of those assumptions are wrong. They think you're indifferent when you're observing everything. They think you're passive when you're calculating. They think you didn't notice when you already adjusted 3 moves ahead. And by the time reality corrects their perception, the dynamic is already decided. Being unreadable is not about hiding, it's about control over access. Access to your thoughts, your emotions, your intentions. All of it becomes earned, not given. You don't respond on impulse, you don't explain on demand, you don't perform for validation. You move when it serves you, you speak when it matters, and you disappear when it's necessary. At that point, you're no longer just another man in the room. You're the variable no one can account for. And in any environment, social or otherwise, the variable always holds the power. It doesn't come from surface-level dominance, it comes from what people fail to extract from you. That's where you become untouchable. Not stronger, not louder, not smarter, just harder to decode. And that's exactly what most men refuse to face. They've been trained to be accessible, to explain themselves, to smooth out every edge just to be accepted. But acceptance is a leash, and most don't even feel it tightening until it's too late. Look back for a second. Every time you rushed to justify yourself, every time you showed too much too soon, every time you reacted instead of observing, you gave away control. I've seen it happen in quiet ways. A man over-explains in a conversation and suddenly he's not taken seriously anymore, or he shows too much interest too fast and the dynamic flips overnight. It's subtle, but it's brutal, because once people understand you, they start positioning around you. The shift is simple, but not easy. You stop giving people access. You slow down, cut your reactions in half, let silence do the work most men try to fill with noise. You feel everything, but reveal almost nothing. And that's where respect starts creeping in, not because you ask for it, but because no one can quite figure out where they stand with you. That uncertainty, that's power. Now do this, drop "I am unreadable" in the comments, and watch how even that starts to shift how you carry yourself.